What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to not another Isekai. I'm Tyler, and it's where we talk about all the current seasons anime, which ones we're watching, and how many of them are Isekai. Usually too many. Sometimes you get a what is it? A diamond in the rough. I think last season we got, well, I guess it's still current. So we got Eminence and Shadow. That was really the one. Even though losing the thread a little bit of that one, but stuff is still going good there. And then this season, we're starting some new stuff with this week. Um, Possibly getting into some more isekai. Are there any new isekai actually? No, not yet. But I will say that this week I'm gonna be talking about some new shows. About like more than half the shows actually this week are gonna be new, so that's gonna be fun. And but there's still a ton of new ones too, because like right now when this episode is dropping, this comes out on the Monday. Technically, there's a whole slew of anime that are dropping on the Sunday, which is the 8th, which is just kind of before when I usually watch stuff. I usually cap everything off on Saturdays, so there might be a bunch of shows that are that are out that I'm not covering yet. But obviously those will be next week. So yeah, even though there's a good like 6 or 7 new shows I'll be covering today, there's still a good like 7 or 8 maybe shows that haven't aired yet. So a lot of stuff to go through this season. I think more than last season even. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, let's get started. So we got My Hero Academia season 6, episode 14. Yeah, not too much happened in this episode. I would say mostly because the first half was like a recap, which whenever that happens, I always get super like, I don't know, like like paranoid because I'm watching the episode and I'm like, okay, because My Hero especially, but also just shonen anime in general, they will do recaps at like the beginning of the episode, right? Usually like the first, I don't know, the first like 30 seconds or even minute will be recap from the last episode, and then the OP will hit, and then you'll get the actual episode, right? My Hero is a pretty big victim of that, which I'm not complaining about. It is what it is. I mean, it also helps sometimes because you're like, wait, what happened last episode? And then they tell you, and it's great. I just don't like it when it's like 4 minutes. It's like, okay, there's no way last episode was that important that we need 4 whole minutes dedicated to a recap. But it's fine, it's fine. But this one went on for way too long. And not only was it recap, like it was true recap where there was like narration of like, and then this happened, and then Midoriya did this, and then Shigaraki, oh no. It was like, okay, all right, fine. So that was like about half the episode. It was like 45% of the episode was recap. Um, so not really too much to talk about. I will say that some stuff there is here to note, because even like the second half of the episode, which was like new stuff, was still sort of just telling you about what happened because of the previous events. Like no new stuff really happened. It was just, oh, here's some information you might not have known about other stuff, you know? So some examples are Shigaraki and the 7 Nomus, they escaped, which is tough because, oof, I was kind of, kind of felt like the battle to end all battles, right? It's like we need to capture Shigaraki, and Shigaraki also being like All for One's main vessel. It's like, ooh, that would have been really big, but they couldn't do it. Especially when those Nomus came out of nowhere, like when we thought they were taken care of, it was looking good. It was looking sweet, because it's like, okay, we just really got Shigaraki. We got the League of Villains too, but all the heroes coming together, especially the really good ones. We can handle this. There's only like 7 of them. Like I think we got this. But then the Nomus coming back and them all being like the super smart Nomus, where they can think for themselves. It's like, oh no, they're not good because they all have like 5 quirks. So yeah, that's gonna be tough to see how that plays out. I mean, it definitely feels like next episode is gonna be a big like regroup episode. Um, yeah. And then another thing we got: heroes denied any interns fought Shigaraki, because you remember that um, our main cast, they're not heroes. You know, like they are still technically in school. Um, they're not actually like certified heroes. Like they do have their like some license. It's not really like the hero license, but it is some like temporary thing where it's like, okay, you kind of do like hero-y stuff, but they're not really meant to take on someone like Shigaraki, who was like, you know, number one threat behind like All for One. You know, like they're not really supposed to be doing that. So, um, I don't know if that's like legally or just morally. So at the very least, they were like, oh no interns fought Shigaraki. Like they were there, they were helping, they were taking off these guys and those guys, whatever. But Shigaraki, that was all us. That was all us. It was kind of protect everyone. Not only the heroes from letting interns do something they weren't supposed to, but also protect the interns or the students, from maybe being barred from doing stuff because they feel like it's too much, and then also just like heroes and like the organization in general, right? And then lastly, I just wrote that Miss Midnight is dead, question mark, because I remember she was in a bad way, the last couple episodes. I don't remember her dying though, but they definitely are treating her like she's dead, I guess, which is rough. Miss Midnight was dope. So, but yeah, that's pretty much season 6, episode 14. Again, most of it was recap, and then even the parts that weren't technically recap, they were still just nuggets of information from stuff that already happened. So not too much there. Like I said, this definitely feels like a wind down. And then even next episode, I think is going to be regrouping, and we're going to kind of see the aftermath on the hero side and maybe the aftermath on the villain side and see where we go from here, because it is, just past halfway in the season. So that does make sense to me that at this point in the season, we would have like a reset type deal happening. So yeah, and if that was the first half of the season, if they keep this up, the second half could be nuts. Like again, I don't really know. Like I guess the manga is still going, right? So, I'm sure the manga readers already know what's happening, but this could be kind of crazy, you know? Yeah. So that's my hero. Next we got Blue Lock episode 13. Love this show. It's incredible. Yeah, and so this is the one where they were finally doing the 3-on-3, Isagi and Bakura and Nagi, but Isagi kind of took the lead and was like, I don't care. I want to battle these guys. And spoilers, bad idea, terrible idea. So the match kind of kicks off, and Isagi scoring first, like, oh, we got this, man. We're dope. Like, you remember that, they're ranked the number they're ranked because they just passed the second selection really quickly. They just kind of figured it out better, back. But like, how much does that translate into a game? Oh boy, were they wrong. So Isagi scored first, kind of getting gassed up a little bit, but then Itoshi ends that. He puts a dagger in their hearts because he scores from kickoff, which is unheard of. Like, that never happens. It never works. It's probably most used as like a last ditch effort. Kind of like a like Hail Mary in football, American football, where like it usually doesn't work, but sometimes it does. And even like the Hail Mary probably works more often than the kickoff. I mean, especially on like a regular size field, like there's no way you have that much distance. Like the goalie has that much distance and time to see where the ball is coming from. Like no way. And so right then and there, it's like, oh, this is different. And even though they get little chips here and there, it's like, no, this team is different. There's a reason why they're number 1, 2, and 3 with the second selection. Because then we have Ryu, who was somehow able to steal the ball from Isagi, which was crazy because he was covering it, and it was a way where just like physically he shouldn't have been able to get around him, but like he's just really tall, he's got long legs, he's also like you can't just use your physicality as a reason. Like, he's also a really smart soccer player. So that was crazy. And then you have Tokimitsu, who's like, okay, Tokimitsu, weak link, right? Like, there's no way, like, we're not really sure how he was able to get this far this quickly. Not sure how he's ranked number 3, but come on, come on. And then he just turns up, right? Where his like physical stature is absolutely ridiculous. Like, his agility, his acceleration, his strength, where like, you know, Isagi was having to defend him because, Tokimitsu was coming at him. He was gonna foul him, and he just could. He physically wasn't strong enough to foul this man, And then even before that, just the fact that Tokimitsu was able to pass Bakura, it's like nobody passes Bakura, and if they do, it's something wild, because he's like a master dribbler, And then he even got crazier in the second selection. So it's like, the fact that he was able to just pass him just off pure like speed. Because like that's different than what's his name? I don't remember his name. Ichigo, where Ichigo's really fast, right? And then even the other guy who was like his rival, I forget his name. They're like really fast, but this guy Tokimitsu is just like he's not only just a fast runner, he's also just quick. So like he can turn on a dime. He'll plant his foot and just change directions. It's crazy. Like, you're not supposed to just be able to do that. So yeah, so these three are killers. And it's just, I don't know. And then we're getting some hope. Nagi scores off Bakura's crazy spin ground pass thing, so that was cool. And I was like, okay, we're still here. We're formidable, but it just doesn't work. Even we have a really dope moment where Isagi tells Itoshi that I can see what you see, and that was hype. That was that was the hypest moment of the whole episode, because that was right after he used his head to block one of Itoshi's kickoff goal attempts, right? And that was like, okay, we're learning. That is Isagi's biggest strength, is that he adapts. He sees the field and he's like, okay, I understand what's happening now. I'm gonna either fight it myself, or I'm gonna put other teammates in the position to counteract whatever they're doing, right? And it just doesn't work. Like this whole episode is our team doing some really cool things, and like reacting to a lot of things in a really cool way, but the other team just overpowers them. Like, they're just better. This is the definition of effort is not going to win you a game. Like, they are just better than you in every way. They're on another level. Like you have to learn some new tricks, and then the real like rock bottom for Isagi in this game was when he thinks that he is using his little future powers to smell a goal, and it turns out that Itoshi created that goal for him. Where it's like, oh no, you're not playing me, I'm playing you. And then he just loses everything. He yells at Nagi and Bakura to, stop him. He slides past Nagi, runs past Bakura, scores the goal, and then the whistle sounds, game over, 5-2. And it's like, oof. They just got you at every turn. Like, the first goal you guys scored, Itoshi wasn't even moving. He was just soaking in your skill, and he realized y'all are trash. You know what I mean? And then the second goal was like, ooh, okay, a little bit there. Okay, we're gonna let our guard down there for a second. But they scored 5 goals on you easy, And then at that point, we're like, oh no, they're going to steal somebody. And I think whoever they chose would have been interesting, but I think the person they chose was the best choice from like a a storytelling perspective. Because I think if they chose Isagi, them choosing Isagi, I think would have been the worst decision. And again, I'm just talking about from a writing perspective, how you want to present your story. Um, I think if Isagi was stolen, I think that would be the worst because he's going on a team with completely new people. Also from his perspective, he doesn't like those guys. So you could say, oh no, it'd be cool to kind of see him adapt and sort of learn from them or whatever. It's like, yeah, I get that, but I think he really wants to take those guys down. Like there are certain people that I don't think he wants to team up with because he wants to destroy them. Like him teaming up with Nagi was different, because he already beat them. So him teaming up with Nagi is like, okay, you were still crazy. Like I can learn from you. With those guys, it's like, no, we lost that. I don't want to join their team. I wanna form a team with people that I like and destroy them. Not the other way around. So I think that would have been tough for us to wrap our heads around and really vibe with. Them stealing Nagi would have been interesting. I think for the fact of it is him and Bakura, like he is comfortable with Bakura, so I think he would have still thrived. I think that would have been fun to watch them rise back up. However, the one downside to that, and the one reason why I wouldn't have wanted the story to go that way is because we just kind of got Nagi, like his whole thing where he's leaving Reo to be with Isagi is really big, and then for the first match for him to get stolen is like, oh, that's so like that first part didn't really matter because he's leaving anyway, so I think them stealing Bakura is like the best choice from just a writing perspective, because them two have already played a bunch together. So now that he has to be gone, is like, oh no, like Bakura is probably like my best friend in this whole place. If we were to call anyone here friends, so like now him to be gone, oh no, like that's gonna light a fire up under him to be like, you stole him from me. Like no, we're gonna go back. I'm gonna beat you and I'm gonna steal him back. Which is tough because it's like I don't know that he'll ever get the chance. Like I imagine that their team is not going to lose again. So unless no one wants to face them, and they're like, oh no, they're the best team here. Like no one wants to face them, so that they actually do end up facing Isagi's team when Isagi gets two other people, and it is a 4-on-4. That's probably what they're going to lead up to. I don't know though. And then for the other fact of now we really get to see Isagi and Nagi together because now it's just them two. So that's gonna be really cool. Yeah, man, Blue Lock is such an interesting show because again, it's not a regular sports anime. Where there's like, oh, it's a main character. We got the team and the school, the club, they're rising up, going through, together, whatever. It is like this weird, facility where it's like, okay, there's all these strikers and we're gonna train them in these weird methods to be the best striker. They're gonna want to eat each other alive. It's got to be the top egotist. It's cool, man. It's cool. Next episode, what are we thinking? I mean, there's probably gonna be a little bit of conversation between them two about losing. Especially after Nagi just said he does not want to ever lose again. I'm not saying that like they're gonna blame each other or anything. I think they're gonna be on the same page to be like, we are not good enough, but also spiteful to be like, we're gonna win 2 games and then we're gonna face them and we're gonna destroy them. We're gonna take Bakura back. Which honestly probably not the best move. Like you should probably take Itoshi. But, I get it. And so, yeah, I mean, we're probably going to see, I mean, is the next one going to be another match? It probably has to be, right? I don't know, though. Because again, we're just over halfway. Like, we still have a good, 9 episodes left in the show. So, a ton of story to be told. But we'll see. Next, we got Eminence and Shadow, episode 14. Again, not too much with this episode. I don't have too many notes for this. Again, not really a whole lot happened. We're just kind of in one location and a lot of fight, but, so the big part is that, did I even write it down. I didn't write notes down for the beginning of the episode for some reason. Because the last episode ended with him being stabbed, right? So coming off of that, we got him just being Lord Shadow, right? Where it's like he didn't die because of that. He bit Oliver's neck. Like he like used that to be like, oh, you're close to me. I got you. And he like bit Oliver's neck like a vampire, and just like squeezed. And then did Oliver die? I guess like that was wild. Like that is a. Did you just think of that? Was that like your plan all along? Like this is you guys got a freaky mind. So that was crazy. And then the old knight let off about like 50 clones of Oliver. We're like, okay, Lord Shadow might have a little issue with this. I don't know if he can beat 50 of them. But he's Lord Shadow again. He's the classic OP character where he's able to block everyone. He's got a plan to destroy the stuff without even using the sword and the stone. Right as he's about to do the last part of his plan, he gets stabbed in the heart by Oliver. Oliver's able to cut through the shield or whatever, and he says, "Haha, yeah, okay." And then he still lets off his nuke, and just destroys everything. Oliver's are gone, the chains on the thing are gone, and yeah, and then we're done. We got out of there. Aurora's happy. Yeah, that was pretty much the episode. I mean, the only thing is that the girls, including Alexia, they formed an alliance to like investigate the Shadow Garden, I guess. So that's cool. I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I just feel like I am not vibing with this show nearly as much as I was in the first half. At this point, I can't drop it. There's 6 episodes left. I gotta just push through. But like, I'll be honest, guys. I feel like you can kind of, gauge my energy on this the past few weeks. It's like I don't really care about what's happening anymore. I mean, with them like, well, we're gonna get into the Shadow Garden. It's like, okay. I mean, they're kind of OP. Like, I don't know, you're gonna be able to do anything, because we're on this side of it, where we're like, yeah, I mean, they'll probably kill you if you like try to take them down or whatever. Like Lord Shadow's over here getting stabbed in the heart and still letting off a military grade nuke. So I don't really know that they're in trouble or in danger in any way. And then like taking down the sanctuary, it's like, okay, that's gone. Well, what was the point of that again? Even with Oliver, it's like, Oliver was no match for Lord Shadow. It's like, I don't know. I think the main thing for me is I don't really know where this show is leading. And so that's why it's hard for me to wrap my head around it and actually care about it week to week. But, what are you going to do, right? That's the episode. I don't know what's going to happen next. I feel like this is kind of like, similar to My Hero, where it is more of like a regroup episode. Just got out of the sanctuary. The Shadow Garden did what they had to do. They got their intel. We'll see, right? Next, we got Mobile Suit Gundam: The Witch from Mercury, episode 12, which is the one show this week that I'm finishing. Episode 12 was the last episode, and let me tell you, y'all know, if y'all have been listening, or watching, I guess, this is one of my favorite shows this season. I would say it probably got edged out by Bocchi the Rock. Loved Bocchi the Rock. Fantastic. So what was that, fall 2022, right? Because now we're in winter 2023. So fall 2022, probably Bocchi the Rock, right? With Mobile Suit Gundam, probably second place. I know many would maybe say like Chainsaw Man, but I read the manga, so it had a little bit less of an impact on me. Let me tell you guys. Do I have some thoughts? But first, let's kind of see what happened in this episode, and then we'll get to the end. Which season 2 is apparently already confirmed, because they said it in the end. They were like, see you next season in season 2. It's like, okay, cool. All right, so Sophie. I don't remember if it was Sophie or Sophia. I wrote down Sophie, so that's what I'm going to say. Sophie's just destroying these fools, but she was straining herself, which I think was important to note because that's the whole thing with the gun format, right? Like, we even saw it with what was his name, like Nell or something. The like gray haired dude that was a clone, I guess. Um, where it's like, the Gund format, it like drains the life of the gun pilot, right? But we haven't really seen that with Suletta. Like we haven't seen her go overboard and like get red and like be tired and stuff. We've only seen that with other gun pilots. So, I think there might be something different where it is like, because even Prospera, her mother, was like, oh yeah, it's a Gundam. But I feel like there's something different about it. Like there is some like different type of Gundam technology and not the same. Or it is the same and Suletta's just built different. I don't know. Because even there, she was like, my heart hurts and it's hard to breathe. And I'm like, oh gosh, is she gonna die? Yeah. So, and then we got Miorine's dad shielded her from the debris. That was really cool because, it's kind of like a distant relationship I feel like they've portrayed so far. And so for him to be like, him to do that and him to be like, yeah, he's probably going to die, most likely. That was a really cool moment. And then for Miorine reciprocating to be like, you're not dying on me. Like, that's not happening. And then Nika, oh boy. Again, there's just like, this is kind of my first gripe. And not really a gripe, it's more so just me, talking. But Nika, at this point, kind of confirmed that she's like a spy in some way. She's some sort of double agent. I don't know what her purpose is. I don't know why she's doing what she's doing. It could be, again, I don't know. I don't want to assume anything. She could be truly bad. She could be doing this against her will. I don't know. She could be doing it because she thinks this is the best thing, even though she knows other people wouldn't understand. I don't know, but this is so like she's about to get destroyed, right? Her and all the Earthians about to get destroyed by the one of the guns out there, and she like flashes the little Morse code signal of that group, and so they back off. Like, okay, cool. Our people, I guess, are in there or something. Cool. And then one of the people, I don't remember his name, but one of the Earthians from Earth House. He comes in and he saw everything. And now he's like nervous. He's like, what did you just do? And Nika's like, oh no. And that's the last we see of it this episode. So next season better kick off because, I wrote down here that Nika needs to give some answers because I want to know as a viewer as well, where it's like, why is she doing what she's doing? Why does she think this is okay? Like it doesn't, and then even her seeing the live, the physical ammunition being like, wait, those are Earthians. It's like, come on. Like she was the one that helped set up this whole thing. It's like, why? Like, and that's not going to go well. I mean, unless this kid gets murdered in the next few seconds. Like he's probably gonna go back to Earth House and be like, hey, so Nika did this weird thing, and we need to talk about it. So, that's like the first thing there. Then we have Ghoul, who is trying to move past Suletta, kind of move past the whole thing, because Suletta's had a real impact on his life in negative ways, but I think in also positive ways. Sort of helping him realize who he wants to be and not who his dad wants him to be, I guess. So that was nice, but then in the midst of that, ends up killing his father. Just stabs him, and there's blood everywhere, and it's like, oh no. So Ghoul's the most tragic character in this whole show. I really feel bad for him, And then Suletta's mom saves her, Prospera, right? Prospera saves her. Says that this is not a duel. This is not a duel. Which I think is really important because, I mean, first off, it's true, right? This is not a duel. This is real life. We're getting some stuff, in this time, but then also, I think it really hits home for Suletta because she's never really had to deal with anything like this before. She's also not that kind of person to get like aggressive and want to kill anybody. You know, that's definitely her whole like energy is like, no, let's all just be friends. Like, why do we need to do this? You know, like like even with duels, like she doesn't really want to duel necessarily. You know, like the only thing that would really strive or that would really drive her to want to duel is just so she can get better because her whole thing is she wants to succeed enough in life that she can open up her school at Mercury, right? Um, but then her mom killing her, like, it makes sense. It's like, hey, like, but if I didn't kill him, he would have killed you. So I could have not killed him, and I could have been put myself in less danger. But then you would be dead, and I don't want that. And that'll come back around later in just a couple minutes. But before that, Suletta almost melted Sophie with like her crazy, like, this gun, ridiculous. Kind of melted off the legs of her Gundam, and she's a freak. She was like super happy. She was like, oh my god, she's incredible. Um, but yeah, and then even right there, we see that turn where Suletta's like, all right, I'm a gun pilot. I got the aerial. No one wants to mess with me, you know. But then like the Earthians, they retreat, whatever. So I guess that's a fitting end to everything because, you know, the season wasn't gonna end with just all out death and destruction. It just wasn't. Especially with them saying season 2. I'm like, okay, yeah, this they're they're trying to build something here, I guess. But then credits roll, and I was upset. So I was like, that's not a way to end a show. You're gonna end the season like that? Like, that was very unsatisfying. Like, it ends with them retreating and then the credits roll. Like, what? But no, there are some post credits, like many anime have, and this is something that I don't necessarily like. Um, so here's how it ends. It ends with Miurine carding her dad, trying to get him some help, right? And then one of the Earthian troops or whatever comes in, knows that he's kind of abandoned, right? Knows that everyone retreated, but he's like, all right, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna fulfill my mission. I'm gonna be the one to kill Delling. Um, I'm gonna take him down with me, right? Doesn't happen because Suletta busts in with the aerial and literally squishes the man with her Gundam. Just turns him to paste. Blood splatters everywhere. She comes out, she kind of slips on the blood a little bit, chuckles, gets back up, smiles, hands out, reaches her bloody hand out to Miurine to be like, hey, I got you. Miurine, on the other hand, absolutely horrified. Completely horrified. Like, she cannot believe the monster that is sitting in front of her. She calls Suletta a murderer. And then the real credits roll. And if we're going to talk about this for a second, I don't like I don't like the ending because it's such a thirsty cliffhanger because this show, right? This is a Gundam show, right? It's a spin-off. You don't need to watch any other Gundam to watch it. I do want to watch the other Gundams though, because I've been wanting to do that for a while. Whoops, move my thing here on accident. Um, and I can see why many, maybe a lot of OG Gundam fans might not like this show, right? It doesn't deal as heavy into like the politics, and like the strategy, all that stuff that I think other Gundam shows do offer. Do kind of lean more into. This one, a large selling point of it is sort of the relationship dynamic, the romance, that sort of thing, right? More like the personalities. And I'm not saying other Gundam don't, but just from kind of my experience with, reading about, the whole Gundam universe and whatever. I imagine that this show's a little more, a little more mainstreamed, whatever, right? And obviously, the relationship between Miurine and Suletta is like the anchor to the show. all that is to say, them at the very end having this just nasty cliffhanger of Suletta killing somebody and Miorine being horrified just seems really cheap to me, you know. And I don't know, I'm just a person, right? But like, I get it. Like I was saying earlier about how this will come back around. You know, we did just have Prospera kill someone, so we'll have to be horrified, and Prospera be like, hey, move, you know, go forward, gain two, whatever her saying is, and be like, hey, you know, if I didn't kill him, you would have died. So I can see them now putting it in this box and be like, hey, if Suletta didn't do that, you probably would have died. Your dad would have died. You know, he was about 4 seconds away from blasting both of you. So, you know, I understand what they're trying to do with it, and then flip it and be like, Miorine does not just accept that logic. But like, I don't know, it's such a weird thing to end on too, because, you know, that's just proof as to what the show is selling, you know, because every show sells something, right? Every show has something. It's like, okay, this is our main focus. This is at the front of the line. And so it's so obvious what this show's is, because the cliffhanger for the show is, oh no, is Miorine not gonna like Suletta anymore? Is she forever gonna think Suletta's a monster for killing that man? Oh no. So I don't know. Again, I get it. You know, it did get me, because I was like, oh man, this is that, because I also really like the Suletta Miorine relationship. But for them to end on that and be like, see you in season 2 is like, well, I mean, okay, I guess so. So I don't know. I didn't hate the ending, but it was just kind of weird to me, and it felt out of place. I was like, oh yeah, and then their relationship is in turmoil. It's like, oh, okay, cool, I guess. But yeah, that overall was The Witch from Mercury. You know, I think it was really good. You know, I think there was some points got a little low, but you know, some points felt a little unfocused. But I think overall this was a really good show, and I'm excited for season 2 whenever that comes out. Yeah. Next, this is when we move on to the new shows. So that's what y'all are waiting for. Here we go. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got 7 new shows today. And they are all varying degrees of good, but I think overall every new show I'm going to talk about today has like a good foundation and has some pretty good potential. All right. We're starting with Spy Classroom, episode 1. This is the show where I think probably every episode, unless it completely diverts itself, I'm going to compare it to Licorice Recoil, which was a couple seasons ago. I think it was summer 2022, right? Fantastic show. One of my favorite shows of the year, Licorice Recoil. But it was kind of a similar premise where it was like, you know, little, like, I don't know, like high school girls, I guess. I don't know. Middle school, high school girls, whatever they are, who are secretly crazy assassins, right? Crazy spies, right? That whole thing. So that's kind of what this is. In my mind, I'm going to try not to bring it up every episode because that'll get annoying. But I just wanted to at least throw it out here now where it's like, give me real Licorice vibes. But, you know, I think even with this first episode, it's not just Licorice. So I think that's cool. And that is definitely needed. Because you're not going to do Licorice better than Licorice. It's just not going to happen. So yeah, let's see. So the kind of setup is that the Great War is over, and now battles are fought in the shadows with these young girls. Well, I guess there are other spies, so I guess it's not completely like that, but our focus is these girls. And you know, all these spies are girls. We have the main character, Lily, who just barely passed her like spy exam, you know? And so she's coming out here, gonna be with another group of spies, very excited. They're all girls. That's like, okay, it's kind of weird, I guess, but okay, cool, whatever, you know? And then also we find out that these are kind of the outcasts. You know, this is the group of spies where they all not really that great. They're all kind of in the same boat where they just barely passed or whatever. You know, so they are kind of like at the bottom of the barrel. You know, so they many times, especially Lily mentions it a bunch of times, where they feel like they are expendable and they feel like they are like, you know, they're just like fodder. You know, they're just like bullet shields where it's like, oh, they're gonna send us on missions just for us to die, basically. But the vibe I get, especially by the end of the first episode, is not like that. Where it's like, no, they are trying to do something special. You know, maybe you all at the bottom of the barrel, you all actually have different abilities that we just need to kind of coax out of you, right? The teacher, however, not a good teacher. I don't know if they ever said the teacher's name. I just keep saying teacher. Teacher, not a good teacher, right? He's a fantastic spy, right? Like we does with the locks. He has like 12 locks in his arms, and in a second, they're all unlocked. It's like, whoa, how'd you do that? um, but he's not very good at explaining how he does what he does. He's just kind of like, oh, I just did it. Like you just do it. What do you mean? It's like, well, that doesn't help us. It's like, hey, how do you do that math problem? Oh, well, you just solve it. It's like, oh, cool, thank you. You know, I was worried, but then you told me to solve it, and I solved it. It's like, no, that's not how that works. You would never get your teaching degree. um, and then, you know, even further than that, there was a guy who stole a wallet from this old lady, and then in a split second, this dude was able to steal it right back, and like you didn't even see him steal it, basically. And so Lily also asked him like, how'd you do that? And he was like, I just did it. It's just like, all right, dog, cool, thanks, you're great, love you. You know, but then even when he sort of tries to explain it by asking Lily questions, he asks like the most ridiculous questions. Or Lily's like, how am I supposed to answer those? Like how do I? And he's just like, well, if you can't answer them, you can't do it. You know, so again, it is kind of an interesting setup where you have a teacher who's incredible at what he does, but he just can't teach anyone how to be as incredible as him. Interesting setup. You know, I'm sure it'll be broken down a little bit, but you know, right now it's kind of what it is. And then we have the big twist of the episode where Lily paralyzes the teacher, and she believes that if they stay in lamplight, they'll all die, right? All the spies, right? Because again, there's this kind of narrative that they've all formed in their heads that they are just being used, right? They are not meant to survive. You know, mortality rate 90%, all that stuff. You know, so you know they all believe that they're just going to be used to, you know, we're going to be on the front lines and we're going to be the bullet shields. You know, so she's like, I've outsmarted you, I've bested you as a fellow spy. I want you to push all of us into different spy factions, you know, give us recommendations, all that stuff, so that we can be a part of a real group and, you know, survive, be a real spy, do our thing. Turns out that the teacher's 25 steps ahead of her. Like, you know, as soon as Lily walked into his room to propose a little day off, he was like, she's up to something. You know, and then we have a nice little comedic moment here where, you know, she has cuffs on her, the boat is sinking, all that stuff. And he's like, all right, cool, unparalyze me. And she's like, I don't have the antidote. And she's like, you know, why don't I just, you know, why don't you just give me the keys to the cuffs and then I can really do something. You know, I can kind of get us out of here. And then he's like, no, I don't have the keys. I don't have the keys, sorry. And she's like, all right, cool, that's fine. The paralyzed poison wears off in 10 minutes. And he's like, oof, the boat's going to sink in 5 minutes. It's just like, you're just two idiots, you know? Like, they're perfect for each other. A perfect teacher-student dynamic. You know, but like, it's cool, you know, because by the end of the episode, it's like, okay, we kind of have an understanding of each other. You know, even the teacher says to her, he's like, hey, I think I've developed a curriculum in which I can actually teach you guys, and it's all thanks to you. I don't think he explained what it is. My guess was going to be that he was going to kind of put them all in situations. Like it wasn't going to be like, I'm going to do something, and I'm going to tell you how I did it, and then you do it. It's going to be more like, I feel like it's going to be more like practical stuff, where it's like, okay, we're going to put you into various situations where you have to do something, you have to learn something new to get out of it, or succeed in the mission, or whatever, you know. I think it's going to be more like task based rather than just like reading or studying. You know, I think it's still going to be that because I think you have to do that. But, you know, it's going to be more like physical and less mental, you know, less so I'm in a classroom and more so like, hey, let's actually go out in the field. Um, you know, because again, like, you know, maybe, you know, explaining stuff isn't really his forte, but, you know, maybe showing them or even like, again, putting them in a situation where they have to learn how to pick locks like that, or they have to learn how to use whatever, right? So yeah, that was episode 1. You know, I enjoyed it. I think it has some good potential. I want to learn more about the other spy characters. You know, I hope it's not just Lily and then 7 background characters. That'd be really boring. That'll kind of ruin the point of having this like a cast of characters, right? Um, and yeah, I think it'd be really cool because again, I don't really know what their mission is. You know, I guess like they are all working towards the impossible mission. I guess. Don't know what that is, but it's gonna be cool to see them kind of learn stuff. Again, you know, that is another difference between this and Licorice, where, you know, with Licorice Recoil, this training was already kind of done, and now they're just kind of in the field completing missions. Whereas this is like, oh no, we're still learning. We are still students. It's spy classroom, right? So yeah, I thought it was cool. It's a cool show. Excited for next episode. Next, we got The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten, episode 1. Um, this was one where I was coming into and I wasn't 100% sure about it because I was like, okay, like, how long is this gimmick gonna last for and be interesting? And I still kind of have that thought, but you know what? There are a couple things that give me hope that this will last and be fun the whole way through. So not too many notes. You know, all I have is that, you know, we have Fujimiya, main character. He gave his umbrella to Sheena. Just out of the goodness of his heart, you know, he saw her on a swing all alone in the rain. He's like, okay, I'm gonna give her the umbrella so that she doesn't, just it's just a good thing, right? He ends up getting sick, ends up getting a fever, right, because of it. It's a sacrifice. um, Chivalry is not dead. And so Sheena is like, okay, well, I'm gonna take care of you at least for a little bit, you know, because I kind of feel bad, you know, it's kind of my fault that you got sick because you had to hand me your umbrella, and you know he's not really all about that. But he's like, whatever, I can't, I guess, you know, you're set on it, so I'm not, I'm not gonna argue with you. Whatever you want to do, that fine. Um, but it starts to go past that, you know, it starts to go past that where his fever's kind of over, right? He had it for like a day or two, whatever. And then she keeps kind of making him meals. You know, that's where the through line sticks. And it's like, okay, you know, and like, he tries to tell her to stop, to be like, hey, you don't have to do this. Like, I'm not sick anymore. You don't owe me anything. Like, we're even. You don't have to keep doing this. But she keeps doing it. You know, at first she's like, you know, with like, I think the first one was like, I can't stand to see you live like this. And then like the second and third time, she was like, well, I just made too much, you know, so I'm not gonna throw it out. So I'm just gonna give it to you that way. You know, it's not wasteful. But then she keeps doing it. And it's like, you know, and then she uses the excuse of like, oh, you know, I just like showing off my cooking skills. So, you know, she keeps making these excuses to why she keeps, you know, giving him food. You know, and then she even comes over and helps him clean his place. And she's like, listen, listen, you filth. If you just regularly clean your room, or not your room, I guess your apartment or whatever, it won't get like this. You know, you just have to regularly clean it. You know, even if it was like once a week. You know, just like clean your place. Then, you know, then it won't get to the point where it looks like a dump, a literal dump. You know, so there are some nice, you know, little cute moments, little sweet moments in this show. I think the one thing it has going for it that makes it stick out just a little bit, you know, because right now it is sort of run of the mill, right? It is just these two characters. they're in high school, whatever. Um, they're chilling with each other, being nice to each other, whatever, right? I think there's a show that very easily could just be this nice little rom-com, but it's not yet. No, I don't remember the tags for the show. I don't know if it is romance. I don't know. Like, just with my knowledge of anime, I could very much see this going the romance route. But as of right now, it's not really that. Um, because I was thinking about this of like other shows with this plot would have been like, oh, and the main character has had a crush. Fujimiya has had a crush on Sheena for years, for since middle school, whatever. And so now Sheena's coming over his place and taking care of him, whatever. It's like the perfect storm, and then he's gonna use that opportunity to try to get with her or whatever. But like that's not the setup though. Like, you know, Fujimiya has heard of her, has seen her, knows that she's popular, she's smart, whatever, athletic, all that stuff. She's the typical popular, she has the nickname Angel, right? So it's pretty obvious there. But there's no real, again, because there's two main characters here, but we're obviously in Fujimiya's head, not so much Sheena's head. So with Fujimiya, we never really hear him have any thoughts of like, oh man, I want her to be my girlfriend. Like we never really have that. Like there's the one moment where he's like, all the classmates or whatever always talk about how cute she is, and yeah, I guess I guess I'm starting to see it, right? But it never really gets to a point where he's like, I think I'm in love, and it doesn't really happen the other way either. Again, we're not so much in Sheena's head as we are in Fujimiya's head, but even with Sheena, like, there's even moments where it seems like she actively does not like him, and she's only doing this because she feels obligated, almost because she feels sorry for him. Again, another show would have made her a tsundere character, but she's not really a tsundere character. Like, she doesn't really have any of like the like isms that match the trope. So we are in kind of this weird spot where they do just sort of seem like people, and they're not, and they're just kind of doing it because it isn't like, I don't know, some like weird arrangement they have. Or like at any time, either one of them could just be like, okay, this is done. I don't want to do this anymore. But they don't. But it also doesn't feel romantic. So that's the interesting angle to this show. That I feel like if they keep that up, again, will this turn romantic? Probably. It'll probably get to the point where they really like each other, and by the end of the season, they might be together. I don't know. I don't know what this is based off. It's a manga or whatever. I don't know if it's really short and they will get together by the end and that'll be the show. I don't know. But it does have that like one little variable there that is interesting. So yeah, I'm excited for the next episode. Next we have the Ice Guy and his cool female colleague. Again, another show where I was looking at this, and another one where I was thinking, how long is this gimmick gonna last? And let me tell you guys, this is incredible. This one might be like one of the standouts for me, just because like it's so nice. It's just nice. So we have Himuro. He got nervous, and so his legs were iced. Right, that's like kind of the shtick to the show. Not only other people too, there are other people who were like born from like creatures or whatever, who have like some little powers, or one character just straight up has like a cat ears and a fox tail or whatever, but he is descended from a snow woman, so he's like snow powers or whatever. And the whole like main shtick to the show is that whenever he gets like super emotional, either way, it would be like super happy, super sad, whatever, ice starts happening, right? So in this scenario, he literally got cold feet, like he was so nervous, right? But then we have the female character Fuyutsuki, who her whole thing is that she's kind of the opposite, where she just doesn't really show a lot of emotion, like just like outwardly, like physically, she just doesn't portray a lot of emotion. That's just the type of person she is, you know. And so she's kind of like on the opposite side of the spectrum where she just doesn't really do that. So people sort of distance themselves from her because they're like, oh, well, she doesn't really like us or something. Whereas like Himuro, you know, tries to manage his emotions like consciously, because if they get out of control, then a blizzard happens, you know. So it's like, it's kind of weird that they're like kind of on like opposite sides of the same coin almost. Um, but it's so nice because they immediately have a fondness for each other. You can tell they immediately like each other. You know, they just obviously haven't confessed, but it's like we have Fuyutsuki, who she got Himuro some straw mulch because she heard about how, you know, he can't really touch flowers and stuff because they ice up and they're dying or whatever, and that makes him sad. And so, you know, they got some straw mulch, which will help. He'll be able to touch that and whatever, right? So that was really nice of her, right? Very thoughtful. Um, and then we have a thing where Himuro, every time he sees a cat, a blizzard happens because he just, you know, he loves cats. They're so cute. You know, he gets overwhelmed, and so a blizzard happens. So it makes him really sad because he's like, every time I see a cat, the snow stuff happens, and then they run away because, you know, a blizzard suddenly appears. A cat's gonna be like, what is happening? You know, so it makes him really sad. So then Fuyutsuki gave Himuro some cat whiskers, and it's like, hey, you know, these are whiskers from my cat. I find them laying around. You know, so I figure that since you can't really touch cats, you know, maybe if you have the whiskers, that's like kind of help you, you know, make you a little happy there. He loves it, right? He head over heels, right? And so he decides to do something for her. And so Himuro got Fuyutsuki some limited edition like ice cream stuff. It's not really ice cream. It was like what was it? I can't think of the name right now. It wasn't ice cream though. It was like gelato, was it? It might have been gelato, something like that. You know, so it was like limited edition, so we had to go. He said he was searching for like a week, all the different stores and stuff. So yeah, I mean that's, you know, I mentioned all those moments because it's a show that I don't think is gonna really have stakes. Again, if you have been listening since last season, I covered a show called Do It Yourself, which was a show, very low stakes show. It was a show about, I think some high schoolers, right? Maybe middle school. I don't know. They were in school and they had a do it yourself club, and you know, it's where you build stuff, you know, you just have fun building little projects and whatever. It was a very low stakes show where it's just these kids who have a fondness for building stuff and they do it together and they have a good time, right? Really only like there was one episode where I was like, oh my gosh, like some stakes, but for the most part it was just a chill, fun anime every week. I feel like that could be the show where it's like there's no real stakes, like no real conflict, no one really, you know, getting mad at each other or, you know, crazy emotional stuff. It could just be Imuro and Fuyutsuki just kind of hanging out with each other, doing nice things for each other. Maybe other coworkers getting involved. You know, we maybe learn more about the coworkers, which would be nice instead of just knowing about the two characters. You know, if the show is going to be a strong show, it's gonna need that. You know, you can't just focus on two characters. Very similar to Love is War, where, you know, we do have the president and Kaguya, great characters, but I don't think that show would be what it is without the strong supporting cast of characters as well. I don't think the show is going to be as good as that show. I mean, you know, that show is like peak rom-com. But if it is just a nice little sweet show where they they just hang out and do nice stuff, maybe by the end of it they do confess, like, hey, I'm here for it. There is a little bit of a cliffhanger though, where they talk about, I think it's like relocating or something, and they're relocating to Okinawa, and Himuro does not want to go to Okinawa. Doesn't say why. He just says, "Oh no," I think he says like something bad will definitely happen if I go to Okinawa. I don't know why. Maybe there's family there or something. I imagine he's putting that on himself, or like something there's gonna make him very emotional, and so like a crazy snowstorm will happen. So he's like, something bad will definitely happen. I assume that's probably what it's gonna be. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Um, yeah. Again, overall, very fun show. I think it has potential to just be nice. A show that we look back on and we're like, that was a good time. You know. Next, we have the longest title in the world, The Magical Revolution of the Reincarnated Princess and the Genius Young Lady, Episode 1. This is one where giving me some real The Witch from Mercury vibes. Real Witch from Mercury vibes. And again, another show. Every show this season I think has potential. So let's see. We have Anisphia. Anisphia. That's how I'm gonna pronounce that. Also known as the Marauder Princess. She just kind of shows up places, and she always shows up with like monsters and whatever, defeats them. She always uses like weird weapons too. Big thing she has is a broom. So she just has this other life, but she is also like legitimately a princess. And so that is a big kind of juxtaposition there where, her father and people around her does not want her doing what she's doing. So you're supposed to be a princess, you're supposed to be upholding the family name, all that stuff, and you're out here acting like an animal, right? But she doesn't really care. She is interested in this thing called magicology, which is sort of using science to replicate magic. I guess that's kind of what I gleaned from that. She has her classic mana blade, or mana, probably mana or mana. I don't think it matters. Her mana blade, which is science in the form of in the guise of magic. It's really cool. It's really cool. So that in itself I think is pretty neat setup for a character where like she's super obsessed with this thing, and it's not for her personal gain though, because she was talking to, I forget, her like maid or something. I don't know, what was it, family, I don't remember. Was it, I don't know, it was somebody. About how like, yeah, but this whole magicology thing that you're on, it's not for you though. Like you're not doing it selfishly, like you are doing it to help other people, which is true. Like because her whole thing is like, if I do this, like this can be used. Magicology can be a huge advancement, and it can help in so many different ways. So that's kind of the main setup for who she is. Back to the brooms. She's destroyed countless brooms trying to fly, which is really funny, because there's a story where she was 5 and she was like, I want to fly. And then she's just spent years destroying, trying to fly on brooms, which will come back around in just a few seconds, just a couple minutes. But that's nice. Again, we're getting more of who she is as a character. Kind of her very optimistic dream sensibilities. Then we get to the more serious side of the show, which is Prince Algard calls off the engagement with Princess Euphelia. Wild. Not really something anyone was gonna foresee. Not something that was supposed to happen. He calls it off, and then he starts accusing Euphelia of harassing Lainey, which she doesn't really deny, because I guess her whole thing is like, well, that's what I was supposed to do. Because again, like it's just like tradition, right? With like royalty and how they act towards certain classes, certain families. She wasn't, her whole thing is she wasn't doing it to be mean. It was just like what was her duties, was to treat people a certain way and act towards these people, but then Algar calls it out and puts a super negative spin on it. Again, I don't really know how to feel about it, because we didn't get too in depth on it, but Algar is dragging her for it. And then the whole party is like, oh man, you feel you really doing that stuff over there? It's just like, all right, guys, okay, you for sure, like if I know anything about like royal family and like just like the whole classism structure. It's like you all knew this was happening. You all knew. Um, but yeah, and then the crazy ending, which is kind of the main setup for I imagine what the rest of the show is gonna be. We have Anisphia crashing through the window with her broom. She's finally is flying. It's incredible. She's not good at flying, which is to be expected. It's the first time you've ever flown a broom. Probably not going to be a natural at it. Um, but she crashes, super ignorant, because she's like, wait, what's happening? And then she decides to take Euphilia away. And I guess she's going to try to like be with her and like accept her as part of her family. That's kind of where it's giving me like Mercury from Witch vibes. Algard not happy about that. But yeah, that's kind of where it is. Kind of like the cutoff there. Again, I think it's an interesting premise. I think just with the fact of, just Anasphia's character and her whole, vibe with magicology is interesting to me. But also with her taking in Euphilia, and us probably going to be learning more about the house situation. Also who Euphilia is as a character too. And then I'm sure the discourse that will happen because of, the whole engagement break between Euphilia and Algard and how that'll affect the family and all that stuff. Because, Algard and Euphilia, they're siblings. So for Algard to be like, I'm not marrying this person, look at the awful things they did. And then for the sister to be like, you want to come with me? It's like, okay, yeah, that's going to be a web of just something. So yeah, again, I think the show has a lot of potential. The show can be really fun. Yeah, good stuff there. Next we got Buddy Daddies. Just a hoot, just a good time all around. This one's the shows I think I'm most excited for the rest of the season. Again, this is a show where I looked at the premise and I was like, okay, I feel like this has been done before in different ways. The whole like, oh, we got two spies who have super dangerous jobs and they have to take care of a kid. There's the, spy by day, dad by night, or maybe that's flipped. I don't know. But the show does it very well, and I am very, very pleased with the first episode. So it sets up with like the driver and the biker. They were in cahoots, trying to take out that guy, and then we find out that they are together, and they have a kid. Take care of the kid, all that stuff. And again, I do like the difference. Again, like the like dichotomy or whatever of them worrying very much about their young child at home for being sick, and then 2 seconds later them to just fire a bullet between the eyes of this man. It's funny, it's a funny little setup. Kazuki is the more kind of like easygoing, sort of like fun, sort of like outgoing sort of dude, and then we have Rei, who was quieter, more stoic, more just kind of like doing stuff. A little bit of a flashback here where we have Kazuki. Well, I guess the whole episode's sort of a flashback, but we have Kazuki who made Rei get rid of the cat. Right, Rei brought him a cat, wanted the cat, loved the cat, and then Kazuki was like, "No, we can't do that. That's like a living creature. Our jobs are very dangerous. We could put Rei in trouble, or not Rei. We could put the cat in trouble. And also, we just don't have time. Like, oh, you bought cat food. That doesn't mean that you're taking care of the cat. Like, we don't actually have the energy. Although I would argue, if you have a very busy job like that, and you wanted to get a pet, a cat is probably one of the ways to go. Like a dog, obviously, is like a lot of attention. A cat, as long as you feed it, fill its bowl, clean its litter box, it's like you can leave a cat to its own devices like for an entire day. But yeah, and then And then we have, sort of maybe the reasoning as to why he thinks that way. Um, he sends money to his ex and his kid, from all of his jobs, and the ex does not accept them. We see that with just the packets of money that have still not been successfully delivered. Um, and so, some of the reasoning there could be, he wasn't able to keep his family because of his job. Like he had a wife and a child that he can't see, because of his occupation. So so that could be where his thought process comes in, where he's like, you have to be ready to take care of this living creature with our profession, and it's just not going to happen. It's sad, it's a sad moment. Again, it is like humanizing these characters, which I think has to be done with a show like this. And then we have Miri, who's a random child coming out of nowhere who just loves Kazuki's cake. Kazuki, with his character, love his character. He's just so happy. He's like, someone is someone is enjoying a thing I made. It's beautiful. He's just like, and then it's just like, what are we doing? What are we need the cake. You can't have her eat the cake. It's for the mission. So that was very sweet. And then Miri, because Kazuki's dressed up as Santa, Miri asks Santa, she's like, hey, the only thing I want is I want to see my dad for Christmas. And that hits Kazuki because he has a child who is not able to see his father. And so he's like, oh no. Oh no. But then it gets crazy, it gets to the part of the anime where we really see both sides of the anime collide, and in order to save Miri from a hostage, which is crazy, here's the thing that I didn't understand about this hostage situation. Kazuki and Rei are coming in, just killing it, right? And then the head guy, he's like, I have an idea. I'm going to take this kid as hostage. I'm going to put a gun to her head. And my thing is like, that's not their kid though. Like, I mean, I guess you could play to them being human and not wanting you to kill a child, but that's not their child. Like, at the end of the day, like, if they were cold-hearted, they could be like, I don't care, kill the kid. That's not my kid. Kid's not part of my mission. What do we care? So again, weird. I feel like the main dude there is having some leaps of logic there, where you're making a lot of assumptions that you think that because you have this kid that they're definitely not gonna harm you. So, okay. I mean, Ray, we see it right there where where Ray was like, hey, he was like, hey, I have a clean shot through the kid. And Kazuki was like, what? No, we're not. No, you're not shooting the child. but in Ray's head, he was like, I got it. I can get him. Kazuki's like, what? No. No, we're not doing that. That was just really funny. And so to save Miri, Kazuki's like, hey, I found your dad. I'm your dad. Jump. Just kind of caused confusion, I guess. And then, everything worked out. But it turns out at the very end, Ray, I guess, has gathered some intel. Turns out Miri is actually Kazuki's daughter. The daughter who was sending, who he was trying to send money to. And so that opens up some more questions. I don't think they were answered. If they were, I must have missed them. But the question of where is the mom? Has the mom abandoned the kid? Is the mom dead? I guess maybe we'll find out next episode. I feel like next episode is gonna be more of the okay, that's my kid. Let's figure out what's going on now. Why is she here, right? Sure, maybe I should have a note or something. What show am I thinking of? Oh no, I think I'm thinking of. No, that's not it. I was gonna say Big Daddy with Adam Sandler. I don't know if you guys ever watched that. I was thinking of that, but I was like, no, wait, because that wasn't actually his kid, right? That was like his friend's kid or something who died, I think, or no, who's like on vacation or something. Yeah, something like that, right? Oh yeah, he was like on vacation, like work vacation for like a month, and so he just kind of Adam Sandler just kind of took care of the kid, I guess. But yeah, that's not what I was thinking of. There was like another show or movie or something that had this premise where the kid just shows up with like a note, and is basically like, and like the mom's like dead or something, or like something like that. I forget. I don't remember what it is though. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, I thought this was a really good first episode. It had some very funny moments. I can definitely see this like at some points hitting the old heartstrings. Yeah, I'm excited to continue watching it. And then we have Revenger episode 1. Um, this is really cool, right? Samurai are just cool. Samurai, spies, ninjas, all that stuff, just cool. So we have Kurima, who was betrayed by his father-in-law and almost killed. That was tough, right? Because he did everything, right? He was like taking out all the rivals. He even took out his own grandfather, you know? And then for him to be like, ha, you idiot. And then almost like shoot him to death. That was crazy. He was saved by Usui. I'm just gonna say Usui. And until I hear it said again, I'm just gonna say Usui. Um, Usui saves him. Um, it was mainly so that he can have Kurima help him with stuff. There's like these secret opium deals going around. It's like what's like driving all the political movements and alliances and stuff, and that is sort of also the cause of this sort of thing happening, like all these deaths, all these betrays, all these different assassinations that are happening throughout the kingdom or whatever, is because of all this opium stuff that's happening. And so Usui and this other girl character, I don't remember her name, she's just kind of hanging out. They're trying to like stir stuff up, I guess. And Kurima's more than happy to help because he realizes that he was played, and he wants to try to make things right, I guess. And the guy, he left a coin in his mouth with like a layout of the Matsumine estate, and so that's kind of their next mission is to go there and just take people out, right? Matsumine in particular. They absolutely destroyed the place, right? This is one place where I think, one area where I think the show is currently and is also going to shine is its action. There are many different crazy action sequences here, many different ways that people were assassinated. Like again, even the girl who like used a kite with like diamond thread to just slice open the neck of one of the, it's like, oh my god. Jesus. But yeah, again, really cool action scene. They just destroyed the place. Again, they were left and right, murking fools, like it was nothing. And Kurima sliced Matsumine. Matsumine had a gun, and he was like, only fools bring guns to sword fights. Destroyed him, right? And then at the very end, we have a nice little cliffhanger where Yui killed herself. I'm assuming that's like his mom, I think, maybe. I think. It's definitely someone close to him. I think it's his mom. I don't remember though. Killed herself, right? So we have a nice little cliffhanger there where it's like, oh no. So yeah, that's basically the episode. I really enjoyed it. Again, the whole setup with like samurai and stuff is cool. I want to learn more about Usui and like what his purpose is, what his mission is, what his grand plan is in general. Kurima being that character that thought, he's like this warrior character and he thought he was doing right and then he realized he wasn't. That whole rebound. I'm excited to see that arc. And then just the whole politics of everything. Just like, how everything plays out, the alliances people have. I'm sure they'll Usui and Krima, I'm sure will stir up, you know, some dust, some and possibly some fear in there as well. So they they might have they might get on the radar. And that's going to cause some complications for them, but it's also going to cause some really cool action. We're going to get to that point. So yeah, cool stuff there. Very excited to watch the rest of it. And then lastly, we got Giant Beasts of Ours, episode 1. This is one where there's a lot of questions, but I think the world they set up is very interesting. And the two characters, who I assume are going to be the main characters, I think there's a lot of potential there as well. So we have Kumi, who was the prototype, has escaped, right? She's prototype. She got some like magic abilities inside of her, that sort of thing. But she's escaped. It's like a big deal, right? And then we learn again a little bit more about the world where there's these beasts and they're hunted for their parts, right? So like, you get like the crystals, you get like the whatever, like the eyes and the claws and whatever. I don't know. But like all different parts of the beast are useful, and some of them are like magical and all that stuff. So, cool stuff there. Then we have the Ring of Promise. So according to the Ring of Promise, Kumi, she might just be the chosen one, right? So we have the guy. I don't remember the merchant's name, but I believe they're going to be a character that's going to be reoccurring because we see him quite a lot in this episode. So we'll learn the name eventually. But yeah, it's like it sells her the Ring of Promise, and it only actually is able to go on the finger of like the chosen one. But also like there's a thing where it's like, oh, who puts it on is also cursed. It's like, oof, oh, I don't know what's gonna happen there. But then right there we're like, okay, Kumi is special, not only because of the whole prototype stuff, but there's something else about her. Then we have Jiro, the already dead, who was like the other main character. He saved that guy, right? He jumped down the wall, threw the spear at the beast, escaped with the guy, right? And then was able to have everyone else shoot missiles at it. So already right there we see that he's a good fighter. He's like that cliche character that's like super quiet, super to himself, but he has a lot of experience, So like when those other people, when they first saw him, they were kind of, kind of making fun of him, being like, "Oh, they're already dead, huh? Oh man, you sure you're gonna be able to keep up?" And then for him to be like the guy is like, "Oh, okay, that's the kind of character he is." Where it's like, he doesn't really show off, he doesn't gloat, he just kind of does what he does. He does work and then goes home. So that was cool. And then Kumi was about to go nuclear. I don't really know what was happening there, but she was going wild. I don't know if she was gonna explode into magical energy or something. But then Jiro saves her, right? He like tackles her. He like goes into like a weird like spirit realm with her. Kisses her forehead, I think, right? And then he's like, "What is a?" I think he calls her a paladin. What is a paladin like you doing without like a chaperone or something? And she's like, "Yeah, about that." And so I think they kind of agree that they're gonna kind of like be together, I guess. Because it makes sense on her end, because he's like, "Hey, he just saved me. I could use him around to help me out." And then from his end, I think a lot of it is because we see like a little flash of, I think, like his wife probably, who like something similar happened to her. Like, Kumi very much reminds him of her. And so he has that little connection there to kind of want to protect her, because it seems like he wasn't able to protect his ex-wife. His wife. It's his ex because she's dead, presumably. So there's a nice little symbiotic relationship there forming. And yeah, I feel like there's some potential with that. Again, there are people after her, so I guess she's gonna want him to protect her. But I do hope that they have a conversation where he's like, "Okay, what's going on?" And then we get some, a little bit of exposition with her. Maybe a little bit with him too. Let's see his story as well. So yeah. Again, first episode. I thought it was good. It was fun. We'll see where it goes, though. We'll see where it goes. And that is not another Isekai for this week. Again, we got some old shows that are continuing throughout this season, so we'll still be talking about them. Pretty good. Mobile Suit Gundam we just finished up, so that's another show off the books. We got 7 new shows this week we talked about. All of them I think have potential. I'm not, none of the 7 shows I talked about today are ones where I'm like, I don't know. I think all of them, I'll definitely at least keep up for the next couple episodes, because, any one of these shows could bomb the next couple episodes and be like, okay, this show actually is terrible. But then on top of that, there are a good probably like 7, 8, 9 shows that haven't aired yet, that I haven't watched yet, that I will be talking about next week. The banger Vinland Saga should be out by next week, so I can't wait for that. And yeah, so pretty good. Again, closing out last season of a very promising this season, I think. And yeah, just excited to watch more anime, see what's going on this season. Yeah, I think that's it. Watch some shows coming out this season. Again, always do this, but it's more prevalent now more than ever to let me know what shows you're watching, what shows you're excited for, especially if it's a show that I am not watching, because then I'll know to pick it up. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So until next time, watch more anime.